Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss how Rishi Sunak seems to have provided another opportunity to expose the divisions within his party. Just as his election strategist is calling for unity, it relates to a plan for restoring power sharing in Northern Ireland, but involves stomping on an awful lot of Brexit toes. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So on Thursday, I read a report in the Telegraph that Sunak was preparing to offer the DUP a deal in return for forming the Stormont executive and getting governance in Northern Ireland running again. The deal involved a promise to screen all future UK laws to make sure that they do not create further trade friction in the Irish Sea. But this is basically a promise that future UK laws cannot create divergence with the EU in a way that hampers trade between Britain and Northern Ireland. It was instantly attacked as sacrificing Brexit freedoms. Now, I could yet again explain how these so-called Brexit freedoms are illusions. Trade is all about alignment with other markets. Governments invest significant resources into negotiating alignment with important markets in order to boost their trade. We stand alone as being the only country actively trying to negotiate divergence, with the resultant loss of trade it brings. However, we'll leave that for now. What I'd like to discuss in this video is the madness of Sunak doing this, because the result was always predictable. I actually mentioned this policy proposal in a video short on Thursday and described it as Sunak picking his next fight with his own party. And then, would you believe it, the Telegraph ran another article late on Thursday night where they report that Business Secretary Kemi Badenoch says she opposes this plan and will challenge Sunak over it. It's actually quite funny. The way the Telegraph tried to hype up her intervention, they said, and I quote, "The Business Secretary vowed to raise the issues at the highest level." And I thought, well, hang on, by definition, everything she raises with the Prime Minister is at the highest level. She's the Secretary of State, he's the head of government, and she'll be raising it in Cabinet. You can't get any higher than that. Like, if she talks about this great coffee she had that morning with her Cabinet colleagues, that's also raising it at the highest level. But the more serious side of this for the Tories is that Sunak is playing with fire here. Let's consider the various factors in isolation before we bring them together. First, the Tories don't much care about Northern Ireland, and the hard Brexiteers especially so. In fact, polling shows that of those who still support Brexit in general, they'd rather see Ireland reunify than their precious Brexit watered down. Second, there is nothing left of Brexit now but this vague notion of sovereignty. There are a few still trying to argue, oh no, our trade's actually improved. It's like, no, it hasn't. Or that the problems are caused by something else. Very few are buying it. The benefits were very specific. Cheaper food, cheaper clothes, better jobs, better pay. None of it's materialised. All that's left to say is that Brexit is worth all the now obvious hardships because we get to decide our own laws now. This is Sunak saying that we should not choose to adopt or change a law if it creates friction with EU trade. Third, the Tories are looking at a right hiding in the coming election, and leadership hopefuls are wanting to position themselves. At the moment, senior members of the party aren't really focusing on the election. They know the election's gone. They're focusing on what comes after it. They want to make sure that their faction, maybe even themselves, becomes a senior member of that future leadership. Kemi Badenoch is one of the front runners to replace Sunak, and she knows she has to build up support now. She can't wait for Sunak to resign, be too late. So Sunak has basically invited a situation where cabinet splits must now be reported. Fourth, much of the Tory media is aggressively pushing this divergence line for the financial benefit of their owners, most of whom don't even live in this country. They will inevitably align themselves against Sunak on such a policy. So you put all this together. Sunak is proposing a policy which invites party infighting, sets at least one senior member of his own government against him, because she's not going to wreck her leadership chances for a lame duck Prime Minister, and invites the Tory media to carry on attacking him for having no vision. In fact, on the Kemi Badenoch front, if this policy looks like going ahead, she may even feel she has no choice but to resign from the cabinet in order to secure her leadership credentials. That would be very damaging. And for what? For a part of the UK that the Tories do not even think as part of their own country. On Thursday, Penny Mordaunt was trying to big Rishi Sunak up against the rebels. And I briefly mentioned her little speech in another video yesterday. But in part of it, she said that the Prime Minister represents Great Britain. Or Great Britain? Not the UK then. Just Great Britain. All right then. I mean, how much more evidence do you need? Northern Ireland makes their hard Brexit really difficult. It causes all sorts of trouble. It has its own political parties. Absolutely no party active in Britain has any representation in Northern Ireland. It's a completely different microcosm in the House of Commons. I don't know how often I have to say this. The Tories do not care about anyone who cannot help them become richer or maintain or enhance their power. And Northern Ireland does none of these things for them. The DUP were useful idiots for them between 2017 and 2019, then dropped them like a stone when they were no longer useful. Yet they keep sounding surprised when the Tories don't seem to be on the same page as them. The Tories are never getting rid of the Irish Sea trade border. The Windsor Framework had nothing to do with Northern Ireland from the Tory point of view. It was a way to sell. They needed the Northern Ireland Protocol to be implemented. They knew that. They needed a way of saying that they'd improved it so they could sell it to their supporters in Britain, who don't even know where Northern Ireland is. Because if they didn't implement the Northern Ireland Protocol, then there would be a trade war with the EU and possibly the United States. The only reason they even care about the Stormont executive forming is that they don't want the hassle of direct rule, especially as it would mean London and Dublin being jointly involved. But this proposal of Sunak's is politically insane. The election is fast approaching, no matter when he calls it, and I still say he wants to call it for May. He knows his party needs to be united to at least limit the damage. His MPs are mostly now trying to unite, but various influential forces are still unpicking the seams of party cohesion. And now Sunak has decided on a policy which cannot help but create another row, which will absolutely be amplified in the Tory media. I cannot imagine that he ran this one past his election strategists. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.